Are you more likely to buy something if it is on sale for $5 or if it's at full price at $10? Are you more likely to go to Frosty Boy and have some ice cream when it is a hot, sweltering day and you're really hungry? Or if it's a cold, chilly, 40-degree rainy day in March? We can understand the decision-making process in both of those through understanding demand. And so that's what we're going to look at today. This is looking at chapter 3 in Tucker's book, but we're going to look specifically at the demand half of the chapter, because chapter 3 kind of covers all of supply, demand, price, a lot of things. So we're going to kind of chunk this down and cover just demand in this video. So first things first, demand is just simply the ability and willingness to buy a good or service at all possible prices. And understand that I may have the ability to buy something, but maybe not the willingness. If you hand me theater tickets, I've got the ability, I can afford them, but I really don't have the willingness. It's just not my thing. However, I may have the willingness to buy, say, a brand new Mercedes-Benz, but I'm a teacher. I don't have the ability to buy a brand new Mercedes-Benz because I don't make enough money, and I don't really have the means in the future to make enough money to buy a brand new Mercedes-Benz. So while I may have the willingness to buy one, I don't have the ability. But if I have the ability and the willingness to buy one at the correct price, I am willing to do so. So I may not be able to buy a brand new Mercedes, but I can buy a used Honda as long as the used Honda is affordable to me. And so the law of demand basically states that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Essentially, as the price of a good goes up, the quantity demanded goes down, or vice versa. As the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. And so we can see this every day. It explains why companies put things on sale. You notice that one thing that Arby's does every day between 2 and 5 is they discount a lot of their items, like their sliders and their milkshakes and other things. You can get those things for $1 rather than a regular price, which might be $1.50 or $2 in some instances. Why do they do that? Well, number one, they know that demand is lower during those times. We're going to talk about changes in demand in a bit. So as a result, people are going to not be as likely to buy things in those hours. So by lowering the price, they can increase the quantity demanded of those goods. They can maybe get somebody to drive through and buy a $1 slider that would not buy a $1.50 slider at 2:30 in the afternoon. We see this in a lot of other areas as well. Several years ago, we had a Pepsi machine at our school, and it vended cans of Pepsi for 50 cents. And me being much younger, I would bring $1 every day, and I would buy a 50-cent Pepsi in the morning, and I would buy a 50-cent Pepsi in the afternoon. So I would spend $1 a day, and so my quantity demanded was 10 cans of Pepsi a week. And I know several other teachers did the same thing. So let's say that 7 teachers bought 2 cans of Pepsi a day, or maybe 10, and some bought 2, some bought 1, whatever the case. Let's say the quantity demanded for Pepsi is 70 cans of Pepsi a week at 50 cents. Well, one summer they raised the price to $1. We all came in on the first day of school. I had my dollar ready to buy a drink, and I saw it said $1 and not 50 cents. And now instead of getting my 50-cent can of Pepsi, now I've got to spend $1 on it. Well, I quickly changed my behavior. I stopped buying Pepsi out of that machine. I maybe went to a substitute. I went to the store and bought cheaper soda, or I went to the water fountain, or I drank coffee that was free out of the coffee pot. Whatever the case, I did something different. So now instead of demanding 10 cans of Pepsi a week, I was maybe demanding 1 or 2. And again, several other teachers did the same. So when the price was 50 cents, our quantity demanded was 70. That vending machine would vend 70 cans of Pepsi. But at $1, now it's only vending, say, 10. So as a result of that, as the price went up, the quantity demanded went down. And understand, this is a dimmer. This is not a light switch. We can't say, oh, the price went from 50 cents to $1 and now nobody is buying it anymore. That's not true. Some people were still buying it. And one fallacy a lot of people make, and one mistake a lot of people make, is that they see that price go up and they see people still buying it, and so therefore they assume the law of demand doesn't hold. It's not that the price increase gets rid of all quantity demanded, it just gets rid of some of the quantity demanded. So, for example, McDonald's recently raised the price of the double cheeseburger from $1 to $1.50. Well, let's say at $1, they were selling 100 double cheeseburgers a day. Now at $1.50, they're only selling 60 double cheeseburgers a day. Some people would say, well, people still buy double cheeseburgers, therefore the law of demand doesn't hold. But fewer people buy double cheeseburgers, or people buy fewer double cheeseburgers. Either way, the law of demand holds. The price increase leads to fewer double cheeseburgers being sold. So we kind of dim the lights a little bit. The quantity demanded goes down when the price goes up, and vice versa. So when we plot that on a demand curve, one thing we can see is here on the left we have a demand schedule. And this is at all possible prices how many items will be demanded, how much quantity is demanded at each price. And we can put that on a graph. And when we plot things on graphs in economics, the price is always on the vertical or y-axis, and quantity is always on the horizontal or the x-axis. And so we can see here at a price of a dollar, our quantity demanded is 50. When we raise the price to $2, our quantity demanded drops to 30. When we raise the price to 3, it drops to 15. When we raise the price to 4, it drops to 5. And when we raise the price to 5, it drops to 0. And so one thing you see is then the demand curve is downward sloping. As the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. So there's this inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. And so the one thing that we look at is that we are measuring the quantity demanded of a good or service at each possible price. And so the thing to understand as well is individuals have demand curves, but there's also a market demand curve. My individual demand curve for Pepsi was 10 a week at 50 cents, but it was 1 a week at $1. The market demand curve is all of the individual demand curves put together. So the market demand curve for that Pepsi machine was 70 cans of Pepsi at 50 cents and 10 cans of Pepsi at $1. So the reason for that is what we refer to as two things, the income effect and the substitution effect. The income effect is basically the idea that as the price of a good goes down, I can buy that and I can have more usefulness from that product without spending as much. So, for example, if I buy a shirt that's on sale for $25 and that shirt retails for $50. Let's say you bought that shirt for $50 and I buy it for $25. By the time we have both bought it, we are getting the exact same usefulness and satisfaction out of that shirt. But I have $25 extra as well. So I'm getting the same usefulness out of that shirt that you got for $50, but I paid $25 for it, so I also have $25 extra that you don't have. And so there's a feeling that when the price goes down, that we can benefit because we get extra utility, we get extra usefulness out of a good, but also we don't have to spend as much money, so we have more money. So we have the benefit of both using the good and having money. The substitution effect is simply when the price of one good goes down, then people will buy it more than substitutes. So for example, if the price of beef is $2.50 a pound and the price of pork is $2 a pound, beef and pork are substitutes for each other. Most people will buy the pork. But if the price of beef goes from $2.50 to $1.50, now the quantity demanded for beef will increase. So more people will buy the beef. They will substitute the pork that they were previously buying and instead replace it with beef that they buy now. And so they substitute the cheaper good for the more expensive good when the price goes down. And so that's the idea of the substitution effect, that as prices go down, you're more likely to have a higher quantity demanded of the cheaper good, and thus you'll substitute that for more expensive goods. And so the other good, whose price does not change, we say the demand for that goes down. So ceteris paribus, which means all things held equal, a change in price causes a change in quantity demanded, and thus movement along the demand curve. So if the price of a good goes up, the quantity demanded will go down. If the price of a good goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. And understand, again, the changes are marginal. The price increase doesn't mean that all quantity demanded goes away, but that fewer goods and services will be bought or sold at the higher price. And so we're going to have less, but it doesn't completely eliminate it with the price increase. That will be the extent of this video. In the next video, we will look at changes in demand and why the demand curve might shift.